So I had this guy come into my comment section recently and was just being an absolute troll. And I think I ended up blocking one of his accounts. Seems like he has many accounts because like most people, when you're getting trolled, I went and did some digging. But the title of one video on one of his accounts really caught my eye. And it was like questions that progressives or deconstructionist Christians won't answer. I took a screenshot of it. It's why did Jesus mean love and forgiveness stuff, but not the stuff about sin and hell? And I've blacked out his credentials because I don't want him to get any more attention because that's what feeds the ego of these trolls. But I did think that this was a good question. First of all, taking Jesus seriously when he says one thing, but not seriously when he says another thing is a textbook white American evangelical move. So if I wanted to spin this, I could say, why does Jesus mean all the things he says about hell, but not all the things that he says about rich people? But I don't want to spin this. I actually do want to answer this. Now, the deconstruction movement is a very wide and vast movement. There's a lot of people who believe a lot of different things. So I'll only speak for myself. So I personally think the best approach to Jesus' teachings and indeed to the whole Bible is Dan McClellan's motto, data over dogma. Yes, I have Dan McClellan merged. Don't judge me. I am a complete sin. So very simply, maybe oversimply put, what this means is when we're approaching the Bible, we're not asking what has the church always taught about this. That is a question that's valid and we can put that into our interpretation, but we are first asking, what does the data say? Now, we do have a whole playlist on this in my profile on hell if you want to go check that out. But one of the most important pieces of data, I think, in interpreting what Jesus has to say about hell is that at his time, in his culture, there wasn't a set idea about where the wicked go in the afterlife. This is because hell as a concept was something that was growing and changing out of the Hebrew understanding of Sheol, which is the primary idea we have in the Old Testament. Anyway, we have writings from the time where people seem to think that hell is 11 months or 13 months, or it's like annihilationism, you cease to exist. And we do have writings from the time that seem to indicate that at least some people believe that it was eternal conscious torment. But what's important here is that these ideas conflict with one another. What exactly is it? You see this actually in Jesus' teaching. Now, I don't have time here to give you all the receipts, but you can go check out my hell playlist where I do. So that there were conflicting ideas of hell and that there's conflicting ideas of hell in Jesus' teachings brings me to my point. Why does Jesus not mean the things that he says about hell and does mean the other things he says about like things like love and forgiveness? The answer is, whenever he talks about love and forgiveness, he never conflicts himself. That is a pure, clear, consistent teaching in Jesus, whereas hell isn't. And on the point on sin, I've never really seen anybody say that Jesus doesn't talk about sin or that we shouldn't talk about sin. The disagreement between fundamentalists and deconstructionists on sin isn't about whether it exists. It's about what it is, what qualifies as a sin. And again, here, if you look at the data over the dogma, one of the things that you'll start to see is that the church over time and in history and in every generation redefines what sin is, and they add sins to the list and they take away sins from the list, which is why you really got to prioritize the data, not just ask yourself, what does the church teach? Finally, I've never seen anybody refuse to answer this question or be afraid to answer this question, so this is just wrong.